Hey, welcome to MGM. I'm Jimmy. Before we start this battle report, I did want to get something out of the way. I'd originally uploaded this on Wednesday, and about 40 people had looked at it before I received a comment of a pretty big error, so I immediately took it down. And the reason that we made this mistake is we played the pen markers wrong in this game, and I had it confused with Star Wars Legion and the way that suppression works. Suppression works very similar to pen markers in bolt action, only with Star Wars Legion at the end of every turn you remove a suppression token, and that's what we did for the pen markers. You do not do that in your games of bolt action, and I immediately pulled the report down. I'm going to go through and try to make some edits to be sure that I call that out. I'd spent a lot of time on this report trying to make it something that would be enjoyable for people that play bolt action a lot, as well as teaching newcomers. I was inserting notes and just spent a lot of time in the editing process to find out that we made a massive error when playing the game, and unfortunately that's not something that I can change. Regardless, I still hope that the battle report is enjoyable, and if you have any questions or if we messed anything else up, please let me know in the comments. The purpose of all of my videos is really to just give people entertainment and to help newcomers find some really good games that they may not be playing. So with that said, thanks so much, and I hope you enjoy. U.S. forces have pulled back to the safety of a French town due to a swift German counterattack. The German forces are seeking something as they move through the countryside. Welcome back to MGM, a great place for casual gaming. Today we have the Germans attacking U.S. forces in this scenario, Manhunt. We'll be playing at 500 points today, and the board size will be reduced to a 4x4. This battle report will be in our How to Play format, where we'll be attempting to show newcomers how the game works. If you happen to catch any mistakes from us, just let us know in the comments, and we'll be sure that we get those pinned for everyone to see. Also, if you're interested in any bolt action terrain, this battle report will showcase some buildings from Micro Art Studio. I've done a review of these in the past, but they have provided some new releases, and I'll be showing them off today. They are officially partnered with Warlord Games, and through their website or the Bolt Action website, you'll find their fully destructible and pre-painted terrain. They didn't ask me to do this, I'm just a big fan of their terrain. It looks beautiful on the table, and I wanted to share. A link for them will be down below. For the list, the Germans will bring a second lieutenant with SMG and an attendant with a rifle. They will have 2 squads of Heer veteran infantry. In the first one, there will be 6 rifles, an NCO with an SMG and a light machine gun. In another one, there will be 5 rifles, a submachine gun on the NCO, and another LMG. A squad of Heer veteran grenadiers accompany them, 1 with a rifle, an NCO with an SMG, 3 with assault rifles, an LMG, and then there is also a veteran sniper team. In total, 500 points. U.S. forces are led by a veteran second lieutenant and an attendant, both with rifles. They will have 3 regular infantry squads with an NCO with a submachine gun and a BAR. They will also have another regular infantry squad with 6 rifles and an NCO with a submachine gun. They do have an inexperienced squad as well, with 6 rifles and an NCO with a submachine gun. Backing them up is a 3-man regular medium mortar team, including a spotter. In total, 497 points. For army building, I recommend easyarmy.com. It's free, and all you really need to start playing is your HQ selection of 2 men and 2 infantry squads for the most basic list. I recommend the reinforced platoons as it gives you a ton of flexibility. I'll put a link down in the description for Easy Army. Today's mission is Manhunt, and the German forces will be attacking. The Germans are after the highest ranking enemy officer, which is the U.S. second lieutenant. In order to capture the officer, they must assault and destroy the officer's unit in close combat. U.S. forces will select a side and deploy half of their units rounding down within 12 inches from the center. These units can be hidden per the scenario, which can make them harder to hit. All other units will be left in reserve, so not on the table. The target officer must be placed on the table as part of the deployment force. The German forces will not deploy initially. Instead, they will nominate half of their units rounding up to form their first wave. The rest will be left in reserve. The scenario does call for a preparatory bombardment, which we will roll for in the pre-game. During the first turn, the attacker will bring on their first wave. These units can enter the table from any point on their side's table edge and must be given a run or advance order. No order test will be taken for the first wave. The game is scheduled for 7 turns, with the potential to extend a turn, and a special rule in this scenario is Confused Fight. All units entering the table can do so from any board edge except the one where the last enemy reserve unit entered that turn. We hope you enjoy this game of bolt action. Turn 1 is coming up next. And as we gear up for turn 1, we do have some hidden infantry in the woods. The second lieutenant in the top area of this house. There's another infantry unit along the side of the building. We roll up for a preparatory bombardment, and on a 2+, we go forward with it. We roll up a 1, so it does not materialize, but the Germans are going to attack, drawing the first order die and sending their second lieutenant down in reserve. You will see that happen several times when order dice are drawn out of the bag, and this is because neither side wants to show their hand. Even though a unit is in reserve, they still must take orders, and during the first turn, they are simply just issued a down order. The Germans do come out making the first move, bringing a squad of infantry onto the board. The Germans pull enough dice to finally have to send one of their units onto the board. They do have to send 3 out of their 5, and one of the infantry make their way onto the board with a run order. The Americans are able to continue to send reserves down, again, not wanting to show their hand. The Germans pull another order die, and they bring another unit of infantry on with an advance. The unit of infantry advances somewhat into the crop rows, giving them soft cover, and they are going to take aim at the U.S. infantry across the board. Now this is what the dice pool would normally look like: 5 shots from the LMG with 1 acting as a loader, and then a shot each from each of the rifles. The SMG is out of range. However, upon measuring, we find out that only those front 2, the LMG and the one beside him, are in range. Therefore, those other dice disappear. They do not get to fire. Now when shooting in bolt action, you always hit on a 3 most of the time, and then you modify from there. So because this is over half range, it's a +1, takes it to a 4. We're giving them soft cover, which is another -1, so that's a 5. And then they moved, so that is going to be 6 required to hit, and they do get 2. We immediately give that unit a pin marker, and then we roll for damage. Because they are regulars, we need a 4+, and they do not take a casualty. Now the positioning of your miniatures is important, and had this LMG been behind one of these rifles, that rifle would have gotten to take a shot. The LMG has a longer range and would have been able to shoot from the back, so that's something to keep in mind as you're moving your miniatures around. The US forces pull another order die and order a unit down. Then they pull another order die and will just issue a down order to the second lieutenant here in the building. The next order die out of the bag belongs to the Americans. They issue a run order to that unit that just took a pin, and we will need to roll to see if they can continue to act as normal. They do have 1 pin on them, and they are regulars, and we consult the chart. Regulars need a 9 normally, but because they have 1 pin, it is reduced to an 8 or less. So that's the effects of pinning, as it lowers a unit's morale. They roll up a 3, so they will actually remove that pin marker because they successfully passed an order test. You remove 1 pin, and they are able to approach the building and get inside. The Americans pull another order die out of the bag, and they are going to issue a fire, and this unit is going to give up their concealment, no longer being hidden. The SMG is out of range, but there'll be 2 shots from the BAR and 1 from each of their rifles. We will group all of the rifles together and allow them to fire at the same time, as they are all in a similar circumstance. They are long range, soft cover, so they will require 5s. They do get 1 hit, so we immediately assign a pin marker to that unit. They are veterans, looking for a 5 to cause a casualty. They do not get it, rerolling out a cocked die. Now the BAR has 2 shots, and he is short range, so he has a normally hitting on a 3, just firing into soft cover, so requiring a 4. We do convert one of the hits here, and we need a 5+ for a casualty. We do not get it, but again, they do take 1 pin marker. The next die out of the bag belongs to the Germans, and they will bring on another infantry unit moving forward into the crop fields here with an advance order. The unit that just fired for the Americans is no longer receiving the benefit of being hidden, so the Germans are going to move onto the board and let loose with the rifles and the LMG. We measure range. Each of the rifles will get 1 shot, and the LMG for the Germans will get 5 dice. Everything is long range here, so normally on 3, long range 4, they are concealed or soft cover for 5, and the Germans did move, so they will be hitting on 6s here, and we can roll all of these together because the modifiers are all the same for the weapons. We do see 4 6s, and these are regular, so needing 4s to cause casualties. That results in 3 casualties, and there is a 6 on the board. So when this happens, when you roll a 6 on a casualty, you're going to roll that again, and if you get another 6, you get to pick the model that is removed. It doesn't happen, so 3 units that are chosen by the defender will get to be removed. Had you have rolled that additional 6, the attacker could have nominated any one of those models to be taken out, more than likely pointing towards that BAR. As always, we assign a pen marker, the models are removed, and that brings turn 1 to a close. Now, with the end of the turn upon us, the Germans sent 3 of their 5 units on as part of their first wave. This is where we made a big mistake in removing the pen markers, one from the Germans in the crop rows and the other from the Americans here in the trees. Those pens would stay on with turn 2 coming up next. And with the first order die belonging to the US, we did make a mistake here, I believe, as your unit needs to stay on 1 floor. We played in advance and allowed some of these men to relocate upstairs. I believe when you are moving between levels, your unit has to be wholly on floor 1 or floor 2, so we did allow 4 of these guys to move up to take advantage of a few window sections up here. This may be something that you want to discuss with your opponent, but playing in advance does allow you to move up 1 floor or down 1 floor. With the men situated, it does allow for 2 men to fire from each of the openings, so we've got them situated to where 2 men can fire out of each of the windows. The Americans are targeting the Germans in the crop field here, and as an American special rule, they do not suffer a penalty to move and shoot for most of them. The BAR gets 2 shots, the rifles get 1 each, they are all at long range and firing into soft cover. They do not get the penalty to move with these weapons, so it will be 5s to hit. The Americans have another pretty good roll, and there's 4 hits out there, so we roll up needing 5s as these are veterans. And there is 2 6s, so we are going to roll to see if we get that excessive damage to be able to pick who we want to remove, and we do for one of them. The Americans are going to decide to remove that LMG. The German player will go ahead and take off the loader as well. As always, you want to be sure that you apply a pen marker to them as they were struck by enemy fire, and then with that we will move back to the dice bag. German forces pull the next die. They play in advance on this unit here. They move forward through the crop fields, and they are going to attempt to bring down the US forces here in the woods. They position themselves to where all of their units will be able to fire within range. Now, anytime a shot is declared, the opposing force will have a chance to react if they have not drawn an order die. These Americans are going to go down, and what this does is it infers a -2 penalty as they hit the dirt. You remove an order die from their bag and assign it to them as being down. They do forfeit their turn, but it may keep them alive. The dice pool spreads out, 5 coming from the LMG, there's 2 from the SMG, and 1 each from the rifles. You do have 1 acting as a loader for the machine gun that will not fire. Now we hit on 3s and we modify because they moved, it's a 4. They are in soft cover, so a 5, and while they are short range, that unit did react and go down, so it's a -2 penalty. It takes us to a 7. The SMG gets 2 shots. It has the assault special rule, so while it does not suffer the penalty for moving, he has long range, so it still requires a 7. We can roll all of these dice together. Now I know what you're thinking, I can't roll a 7 on a 6-sided dice, and yes, that's true. but it is simply a 6 followed by a 6. So out of all of these shots, we get 1 6. We have to roll this again, and if we get another 6, then it is a hit. It does not happen, so all of those shots have in fact missed. Now a quick note on fast dice rolling as we grouped all of these together. You can only do that if there's no penetration value, if all the weapons are just the same and have the same modifiers, so keep that in mind. Moving on, the Germans take an order test here. Veterans require a 10 or less, and there's a -1 modifier when coming in from reserve, so this would have been a 9 or less to get on the board. They do enter, and they move towards the building where the Americans are stationed. With that run maneuver complete, we do pull another order out of the bag, and this one is going to belong to the Germans. This veteran unit does have a pin, so if you remember, veterans are a 10 for their leadership. That pin makes it a 9, so you need a 9 or less. That test is successful. They will remove the pin marker and do the advance order that was issued to them. They continue to move up into the crop rows. They will then return fire at the Americans that are holding in the building. Now, because the Americans are in the building, they are receiving hard cover, which is a -2 penalty. So if we normally hit on a 3, the -2 takes it to a 5, range makes it a 6, and because they moved, it is a 7. So that again, 6s followed by 6s. We do see 1 on the board, we roll that out again, and it is a 6, so that will be a hit. They will take a pin marker, and now we roll for a casualty, and because they're regulars, we need a 4+. We do not get that, but they do receive a pin. The Americans pull the next die out of the bag. They activate their second lieutenant, and they are just going to issue a down order, continuing to keep their heads down upstairs. The next order die out of the bag, again, belongs to the Americans, and they will attempt to bring a force in from reserve. They roll up as 7. These are regular, so normally a 9, a -1 for being in reserve takes it to an 8. They do pass that test, and they will come in on the opposite side of the board edge from the Germans. And if you remember, this is a special rule for this scenario with confused fighting, where reserves can come in from any board edge except for the one that their enemy last came in on that turn. They play an advance order coming onto the board, and they are point-blank range with these Germans. And we form up the dice pool here. That SMG should only get 2 shots, so I'm not sure what we were thinking on this. The BAR gets 2, the rifles all get 1, the SMG gets 2. Normally hitting on 3s, point-blank takes it to a 2, but they are in soft cover, so that will take it back to a 3. With quite a few hits out there, they are veterans, so we do need 5s in order to cause casualties, and that is going to be 4 in total. We do roll out the 2 6s to see if they are exceptional, and they are not, so it will just be 4 casualties picked by the defender. That unit will receive a pin marker, and because they have taken 50% or more casualties from a single shooting, as you just saw, they are going to have to take a morale test. Now they are veterans, so their morale is 10, but the pin marker will reduce that by 1, making it a 9 or less. And they do get that when they will stay in the fight. Americans issue an order to the mortar team, bringing them on from reserve, easily passing with a 3. They needed to roll an 8 or less. And this is a fixed team, so they can run 12 inches, but if you play in advance, they would just be able to pivot. We also move the spotter onto the board, which I believe is a mistake, as while he's part of the unit, he shares the order die, he is treated separately. Now I must have missed the advance footage coming from the Germans on their next move here. They do move up and attempt to fire into the building housing the American forces. Now we are going to roll these separately, as there are some separate modifiers going on. The LMG fires first with 5 shots, normally hitting on 3s. They are in hard cover, so 5s, and he did move, so it will require 6s. He gets 3, and because they are regular, he needs 4s to cause a casualty. He does 1. Now first we want to tick their pin marker up. They will go from 1 to 2 pins now. The rest of the shots are from assault rifles. They do not suffer a penalty to move because they are assault, and they are long range and hard cover, so that is a -3 modifier. We need to see 6s, we get 1, and we do see a casualty. With that complete, the Americans attempting to bring in the inexperienced group, and they are going to fail. An experience requires an 8 or less, but a -1 modifier coming in from reserve is a 7 or less. The Americans do pull the next die, attempting to bring in one of the regulars, so they will need to see a 8 or less. They easily pass that. That unit is issued a run order, and they come in on the American table side. The Germans pull the next order die, and the sniper team attempting to come on. They are veterans, so we want to see a 9 or less. They are good, and they will come onto the board with an advance order. And they are going to elect to fire their rifles into the building. They are just within 24 inches. Both of them will have the opportunity to fire. So normally hitting on 3s, long range is 4, and they're in hard cover, so it goes to a 6. They moved, so it is a 7. So 2 shots coming out. We want to see 6s followed by 6s. We do see 1, but we need to see another 6 to qualify as a hit, and they get it. That is going to be a 3rd pin marker on that unit. We roll up to see if it's a casualty on a 4+. It is not, but they tick up to 3 pin markers. And turn 2 concludes. This is where we make the other mistake of removing 1 pin marker from each of these units. That should not be done. They retain their pin markers moving forward. Both sides are hoping to pull the first order die at the start of turn 3, as there's a lot that can happen in this one depending on who is up first. With turn 3 underway, it is the Americans that pull the first order die, and they launch an assault, issuing a run order. Because they are in terrain, they could only run 6 inches, but they are within 6 inches, and as such, they will not get to react by shooting back at them. If you're within 6 inches, you do not get a reaction attack. In addition, because they are in terrain, both of these units will fight at the same time instead of the attacker going first. We will assign 1 swing to each of the Americans. We will roll the SMG separately, as he is a tough fighter. US player wants to see 5s here. He gets 2, and we'll see if they are exceptional. One of them is. Now we'll roll for the SMG separately, as he is a tough fighter, so if he causes a wound, he gets to roll an additional die. He does cause a wound. We roll to see if it's exceptional. It's not, but there's 3 wounds out there, only 3 men in the group, so they're going to be completely wiped out. But because they're fighting into the terrain, the Germans will get to attack back as they're attacking at the same time. We first roll up for their leader, who's a tough fighter. He is going to miss. They need 4s. We roll up for the other 2. They get no casualties. The Germans will be taken off the board, and the Americans will be allowed a D6 consolidation move. They roll up 6 inches and continue forward, getting behind some soft cover. Now, with that unit destroyed, since they have not been issued an order, the German player will dip into the dice bag, pull out one of their dice, and take that out of the order pool. Getting rid of units is extremely helpful in bolt action, because the more dice you have in the bag, the better chances you have to activate are. The Germans do pull the next die, and they are going to issue a run order to this unit here as they plunge into the building. To run onto the ground floor of a building like this, as long as all of the men can get within 1 inch of the building and 1 man within an inch of a window or a door, then the unit can enter, similar to embarking on a transport. Action continues with the Americans that pull the next order die, and we can get line of sight to the German second lieutenant here. There is a run order, a charge that is going to be issued, and as a reaction, they are going to be issued a fire order. So pulling a dice out of their bag, reacting to the charge, and firing their weapons. The SMG gets 2 shots. They are long range, so it would need 4s. They are getting some cover here as well. He is going to convert 1 hit, but there is no casualty. The rifle is going to fire as well, similar modifiers. Normally hitting on a 3, soft cover to a 4, and he is not going to get a hit. The Americans will then charge into contact, and we will have close combat again. They will be assigned 1 die per man. The SMG we will roll separately, as he is a tough fighter, so if he causes a casualty, he actually gets to roll again, attempting to cause another one. In this one, the Americans will fight first, so if they can get 2 5s here, they would eliminate this German unit. They only get 1, however. We do roll for the SMG, the NCO, as he is a tough fighter, to see if he can cause damage, looking for a 5-up, and he doesn't get it. The German second lieutenant is all that's left. He is armed with an SMG, which makes him a tough fighter as well, so he is going to roll out an attack looking for a 4. He gets it, and now he is going to roll again. That tough fighter special rule, he does not convert the second. Now, since the combat is tied, they will repeat this process. This time, the Americans incapacitate the officer, and they will roll up a 6-inch regroup, moving forward to the stone wall. The Americans draw the next order die, and they are going to move this unit here from the woods. They are going to move up to the building here and fire into it with their weapons. The BAR gets 2 shots, the SMG gets 2 shots. There's no penalty to move here for either of these because the SMG is assault. The rest of the weapons, the Americans do not suffer that penalty. Hardcover and point blank makes these 4s in order to hit, and while they get 2, they do not cause any casualties. We will place a pen marker on that unit. We move back to the dice bag where they attempt to bring in their inexperienced squad here. They again fail, rolling up a 9. The Americans pull another order die, and the spotter plays an advance. He is going to move forward. The Germans then pull a die, and the sniper team, they're going to fire at the team that just moved into the open. They are using the sniper scope, which ignores all modifiers. They are just outside of 12 inches. If they would have been within 12 inches, the shot would automatically miss. He just needs a 3, as he ignores all negative modifiers pretty much. The hit converts, and it always counts as exceptional. So any casualties caused are always exceptional, and he'll choose to remove the BAR. The Americans pull the next order die, and because we allowed this group to previously go up a floor when I don't think we should, we make them play in advance to come back down to the ground level. They have 2 pen markers on them, so they will need to pass an order test. And since they're regular, that is going to be a 9 minus 2 is a 7 or less. That was successful. So we are going to allow those guys from the top floor to come back down to the ground floor, and the unit is once again all on the same level. Had that unit have stayed on the ground floor, they could have played a run potentially to go into combat in the next building. Had they have failed their order test, they would have just went down. Now don't forget to tick off one of their pens for successfully passing the order test. They are going to gather around the door and the windows and open fire. We form up our dice pool, and all of these are going to hit with the same modifier, so on 5s, they roll a very good hit. We apply a pen marker and roll for casualties, and they do extremely well again, this time sinking 4 casualties, potentially 2 exceptionals. We roll these out if we get any more 6s. There is 1. That's 4 casualties with 1 being exceptional. The US player elects to eliminate the LMG, and the German player can take away the rest. In addition, because they suffered 50% casualties, they do have to take a morale check. They do have 2 pen markers on them, I believe. That is a 7, and they will just pass. The next die out of the bag belongs to the Germans, and they will advance forces out of the crop fields and attempt to eliminate the American threat on the backside of the building. With just a penalty for moving, they will fire, requiring 4s. And not a very good roll here. There is only 1 hit. They will take a pen. Needing 4s to cause a casualty, it does not. The last die out of the bag goes to the Americans. The second lieutenant at the top of the building just continues to go down, and that brings this turn to a close. So the Germans are attempting to surge forward. They have made it into the building where the enemy operative is. They would need to get an order die out of the bag and get a run order issued to go up 2 flights of stairs in order to make contact with him. Turn 4 coming up, and the Americans are going to take the first order die. They issue a run order, and that is going to allow them to come out of this building and into contact with the next. They will be in hand-to-hand combat with the Germans on the other side. The German grenadiers in this building are tough fighters, so it could be a tough go for the Americans. They will all get one swing each. We'll roll for the SMG separately. He does not convert. The rest of the men looking for fives, they cause one casualty. The Germans swing back with a non-tough fighter needing a 4-up, doesn't get it. The other two men are going to swing and they will get 2 casualties, and they will get to swing again. They don't cause any more casualties, but they caused more casualties than the Americans did, and the Americans flee. And in a gist, that is how quick combat is. If you lose, you are essentially wiped out. The Americans pull the next order die, and they issue a run order to this unit. They make contact with the building, and will therefore assault the unit in it on that floor. The Americans take swings, but are unable to convert any 5s to cause casualties. The German inside is swinging back. He needs 4s, and he does not convert either, and we repeat this process. We actually repeated this process a couple of times. Once again, the American's missing, but finally the NCO lands the hit that he needs. The German player does swing back and not get anything. They are attacking at the same time as they are in terrain, but that German unit is going to be completely wiped out, and the Americans consolidate inside. And it was that sequence of events that have really dashed the hopes for the Germans. They had a really good chance to win this game if they would have pulled the first order die, but now you can see how taking units out really impacts the game. This unit of inexperienced riflemen did not come in, but when you eliminate units, you're removing dice out of their bag, and that just makes it harder and harder for you to be lucky enough to get that activation that you need. The Americans pull another order die. They are getting a spot from their spotter. He would need a 6-up to hit here with indirect fire, trying to range in that mortar team. That fails. I was hoping to show you how that works. The Americans grab another order die where they advance over the wall, and they are going to bring their rifles to bear against this approaching German unit. The Germans are getting hard at cover, so they would need 5s in order to convert here. And those shots are coming out. We will see 2 hits. Since they are a veteran, we need to roll up 5s to see a casualty. And that's 2 of them gone, with the chance of 1 for being exceptional damage. It's not. And while I missed the footage, the SMG puts 1 more bit of damage on them, removing 3 of the infantry here. A pin marker is applied, and the Germans are really in a tough spot at this point. A morale test will need to be taken. They're on a 9, and that will just be successful. That unit of Germans is going to attempt to try to push forward, issuing a run order. They do have a pin on them, so again, veterans are at 10. That's going to take them down to a 9 or less in order to pass this order test, and if they do not get that, they will go down. The Americans pull the next order die, and we're going to play in advance here just to show you a small team. And if you're a small team, that is a team of 2 or less. If someone shoots at you, then it is a -1 modifier to hit. Normally you would just charge in this situation, but they bring all of their weapons to bear against this 2-man unit, normally hitting on 3s. They're point blank, so that goes to a 2. The small team takes it back to a 3. So with all of these shots that are coming out, there's going to be several hits out there. But being a veteran team, they need 5s in order to cause casualties. They don't get any 5s, but that's just the benefit of being a small team, and a lot of times why you want to take your HQ, like your second lieutenant or something like that, in a small team of 2 versus 3, because they are a much harder target to hit. And that brings our game to a close, as the Germans are going to concede this one. They are just not going to have the horsepower to get into that building and make their way up to get the second lieutenant of the Americans. The Americans are going to take a victory today. So that is Bolt Action. Really hope you found this video helpful, especially if you're a new player. We did get some things wrong ourselves, but it just happens. If you find anything glaring, just leave a comment down below. I'll get it added to the description, so hopefully it will help some folks out. Bolt Action is a very fun and thematic game. It's easy to learn and pick up, and I hope this video may have helped you out. Thank you so much, as always, to the Supporters Club. Your names are on the screen now. Links are all down in the description for that. Quite frankly, if you've watched the video this far, you've done more than enough to support my channel. So thank you so much, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.